I'm a big tennis fan. PJ, you know that by now. I'm a diehard tennis fan. So we got the second Grand Slam of the season this weekend in Paris, Roland-Garros, the French Open. And so to talk about it all, one of the most familiar faces that you'll see on Tennis Channel. She's a broadcaster and studio host for TC and a former D1 basketball player. That's Dani Klupenger. Dani, it's Pat and PJ. Thanks so much for joining us. Are you excited for this weekend?
Thanks, guys, for having me. Yeah, I'm very excited. And after traveling with the tour, especially over this spring season, I just got back from Rome on Monday, which was the last major, Masters 1000 before Roland-Garros gets kicked off, which means I get to sit on my couch and watch it and enjoy it with all of you degenerates. So I'm excited about it.
Wow. All right. The degen word right out of the gate. I like it. Dani, let's start with...
I feel like PJ knows, like this, you got to buckle up if you're on with me,
Oh, I'm ready. I'm buckled. I'm strapped in. All right. Let's start with the men's tournament here, kicking off on Sunday. No Carlos Alcaraz, a damn shame with the wrist injury. It's already got him ruled out at Wimbledon too. And because of that, you look at our friends at BetMGM, and if you are feeling degen, maybe you lay just Jannik Sinner to win the tournament, because he is a massive, nearly minus 300 favorite to win the French Open. Even when Rafa was at his peak, I'm not sure how often he had that kind of price attached to him. That speaks to the dominance of Sinner, who's on this historic run at the Masters 1000 level this year, winning every tournament. You just witnessed it in Rome. But his last Grand Slam thriller that went 5 sets against Novak Djokovic, Sinner lost. So now that Alcaraz is out of the picture here on the clay, do you think Sinner deserves to be this huge of a favorite to win in Paris and capture his career slam?
It's interesting that you bring up that Rafa part of the whole conversation. Actually, 2009 is the only time we've had a bigger men's favorite, and it was Rafael Nadal, and he didn't win. So take that for what you will. But I would just stay away for the way that I would be playing this tournament on the men's side of things. I do think Sinner wins it. So I think you're finding way better value on who's going to win the quarters, who's going to get to this, who's getting all the way to the semis. I think you're finding much bigger value there. Some of these like one-on-one matchups as well than you are overall tournament winner, because I do think writing's on the wall. There's a reason Jannik Sinner is this massive of a favorite.
Dani, the biggest storyline on the men's side is probably the combination of Sinner being this big of a favorite and Alcaraz being injured. What would you say is kind of the next biggest storyline that you're monitoring on the men's draw?
Well, I think anytime Novak Djokovic is playing, it's a part of the conversation. The guy barely plays any tournaments any longer unless it's a slam, and yet he still makes the semifinals at least. We saw him make the finals in Australian Open. He's barely playing. However, this particular tournament, I'm not as dialed into Novak Djokovic, only because I do think we saw him play in Rome. That was his only clay court match that we've seen him play since last year's Roland-Garros, and it didn't go well. He lost to a qualifier, Dino Prismic, who has been playing quite well, but still Novak Djokovic said himself he's a step slow. These 5-set matches make me a little worried, but I think that that's a massive storyline anytime you play it. The other one is like the next favorite, which is pretty far down the line, and that's Sasha Zverev, who's never won a major. And he's like, the conversation is he the best player to have never won a major? And that is literally at the forefront of his brain. It's the forefront of every conversation. So is this the time that things could work out in his favor? Sinner somehow loses early, and this is Zverev's shot, because I don't think he beats Sinner if he makes it to the championship round. Something's going to have to happen to Sinner before Zverev gets down there.
You mentioned that there could be value, maybe betting on like some of the guys to make quarters or certain things like that. So is there anybody else on the board that maybe you like to make a little bit of a run, or potentially if Sinner gets knocked out, then all of a sudden people are going to have a great ticket in their pocket for somebody to win the French Open? Is there a guy or two that maybe piques your interest?
As far as quarters go, I know that you've got Novak Djokovic as the favorite to win the third quarter of the draw, that third section. I actually think Casper Ruud will do that, and at plus 275, you're getting good value. That second quarter is really interesting. Daniil Medvedev, self-proclaimed hater of the clay, hates it so much, but yet he still plays so well on it, and he's starting to play a lot better. He started clay court season with a love loss to Matteo Berrettini, which was mind-blowing for a former world number one player. But guys, to win the quarter, plus 300. That's great. So right now for me, the semis are Sinner, Medvedev, Ruud, Zverev.
I like that. Medvedev on the clay. We're talking with Dani Klupenger here on BetMGM tonight, Westwood One Sports, talking French Open, Roland-Garros, second major of the year, which starts on Sunday. I'm Pat Boyle, PJ Glasser in for Brad Evans. Dani, let's switch over to the women's tournament here for just a bit because it's way more wide open than the men's on paper. Aryna Sabalenka has been the number one player in the world for over a year, winning 4 Grand Slam titles in the last 2.5 years, but she's never won the French Open. American, one of our favorites, Coco Gauff, is the reigning champion here. She beat Sabalenka in the final last year. Then you have the clay queen, Iga Swiatek, who hasn't kind of been the same force since she won 3 straight French Opens from 22 to 24. And then there's Elena Rybakina, who won the Aussie Open earlier this year. The women's draw is packed, Dani. So what do you make of it? And if you had to pick a winner, who would it be?
It's absolutely up for grabs. That's what makes this one so fun because Aryna Sabalenka, yes, she is always a favorite and always in the conversation, especially being the world number one. But guys, she had an early exit in Rome, quarterfinal exit in Madrid. It hasn't looked peak Sabalenka right now on the clay. So she actually makes me a little nervous. I do think she can probably make the semis. There is a little bit of value on Jess Pegula to actually make it out of that quarter. Someone that already has a title on the clay this year over in Charleston, but still a solid, tends to make the semis of pretty much every event she plays. At plus 650 for Sabalenka to have gone down somewhere before she gets out of that quarter of the draw, plus 650 for Pegula was looking mighty juicy. Coco Gauff, I think she makes the final. She's been playing so consistently. And I'd say she's a fighter. I'm not going to tell you that she's playing her best tennis, but I would say that once we saw how Rome went, she started to go momentum-wise in the right direction. And she just does not quit. So because of that, I actually think she could make the final yet again. But guys, if I was putting my money on somebody, how about the girl that's won it 4 times, Iga Swiatek? Plus, what is she at? Like plus 300 or something to win?
Let me see. I had Iga is
325 plus 325 BetMGM. Yeah, that's good value.
She's got Francisco Roig in her coaching staff right now, who was obviously coached with Rafa for quite some time. She worked out with Rafa, and even though it hasn't paid dividends yet, she's still. I've talked to players where they say the most intimidating thing to stare at on the opposite end of the net is Iga on clay. If that's already playing in players' minds right away, and you could potentially get that much value on someone like that, that's definitely something to pay attention to. If you like the storyline of Elena Svitolina, who just won in Rome, she's a Ukrainian player. She's also the wife of Frenchman Gaël Monfils, who is retiring after this year. They just had this massive ceremony for him. So she's certainly going to have the crowd support because even though she's Ukrainian, she also obviously is going to get that French crowd rallying behind her. She's been playing really great tennis. I just think there's great value on Iga.
Yeah, I agree. Look, if there's anybody out there that's looking for a long shot here, Dani, we know we can get some long shot surprise winners in the women's tourneys. Sonia Kennan a few years ago. I mean, at the time, Emma Raducanu was a massive shock. Vondrousova at Wimbledon a few years ago. Is there anybody that, if you're thinking in the back of your head, like in a week and a half from now, we're saying, wow, this Cinderella run continues? Maybe players that aren't even in the top 10 or even top 20 that you could see making a run here to the final or even win it on the women's side. Remember, last year, Louise Boisson, the French native, made it all the way to the semifinals. So is there anybody in the back of your head that you think could make a really big shock run?
Well, little tidbit of information on Boisson. I am hearing that she is not in peak physical condition, so I don't think she repeats that run to the semi, so maybe stay away from her in this whole scenario. But Vicky Mboko, someone to pay attention to. I'm sure that she's quite a long shot. I didn't look that far down on the Flyers list just because I think sometimes when these players are so young, it's a very overwhelming feeling to play on this big of a stage. She's quite young. I believe she's under 20. She might be 19 years old. But she's somebody maybe that you could get some value on, or you could go the other way. I already mentioned her, but she's so consistent, and it's Jess Pegula. She's coming in healthy. She's coming in rested. Just somebody that's consistently there and consistently in the mix. Really likes the clay. Somebody to pay attention to.
Dani, I'm looking at all these first round matchups that we have on Sunday and Monday on the men's draw, on the women's draw. I know there are some matchups you got circled, maybe some bets that you have as well. So what are some matchups, men's or women's draw, that you like in the first round?
There, Naomi Osaka is always a big name to talk about, especially because she almost beat Iga Swiatek here last year, and that was a big comeback story for Naomi Osaka. But she's playing a very tricky player in Laura Siegemund. Now, I'm not telling you that Naomi won't win that match, but I would look at it to go 3 sets. I would look at it to go over on games. Laura Siegemund is so frustrating to play. She does little antics that really drive players nuts. And because of that, I think that one's going to get a little bit more competitive than we may normally think so, especially based off of ranking. Novak Djokovic plays Gio Petty-Pericard, who's a Frenchman, and he's a big-time server. I don't think there's any threat of Novak losing that match. However, maybe look at Petty-Pericard and his aces count. Might be interesting. You know, I like to dive into some of these props because they're quite fun there. And then I would steer clear if you're trying to pay attention to an American on the men's side. It's not looking great, if I'm being honest. Taylor Fritz had a quarterfinal run last year. He played 0 lead-in tournaments other than Geneva just this last week, and he lost in the first round. So I'm not feeling super confident on him. Ben Shelton has a clay court title earlier this year in Houston. Since then, hasn't played well. Francis Tiafoe only played Rome leading into this tournament, so not a ton of matches on the clay either. So I don't have a ton of confidence in those American men. That's unfortunate for me to say, because usually I'm a rally behind them kind of gal.
Talking with Dani Klupenger here on BetMGM tonight, Westwood One Sports. Dani, you literally stole my question. I was going to ask you about our American guys, and I was going to say I think maybe the U.S. Open gives our guys a better chance. And yeah, so you kind of just summed it up there. Maybe Tommy Paul gives us the best chance, the American men.
I would say of all the Americans, yeah, you clearly know your tennis, because yeah, he would probably be your best option there. He really gave up one I'm trying to remember who it was. He had the lead and he lost it in the third in Rome. That was surprising to see. It's not
against Darderi.
Really, yes, Darderi, who's been playing great. But these Americans aren't giving me a ton of confidence going in there. On the women's side, Iva Jovic, I do believe, is potentially going to play. She plays Alex Ayala. That's a really fun, intriguing first round match, just because Iva Jovic and Alex Ayala are besties. They're two of the up and comers that will be known about.
And Dani, let me just jump in. What is the craze with Alexandra Ayala? She might have the biggest fan base in the world for somebody that's not even in the top 10 or even top 20. What is it about her that's millions of people are drawn to?
So Alex Ayala is from the Philippines. They've been waiting to have a superstar athlete come out of there, and she has delivered. She made a crazy run last year in Miami, which kind of catapulted her onto the map. And since then, everywhere she goes, she packs out stadiums. People are lining up everywhere. She means so much to this country. She means so much to this culture, and she's a great ambassador for it as well. It's so crazy someone that young can put that much pressure, have that much pressure on her shoulders and still deliver time after time. I liken her scenario to what you're seeing from the Brazilians and Joao Fonseca. There is a possibility we could see a Joao Fonseca-Novak Djokovic match in about the third round, which would be really fun just purely from a popcorn perspective. But I am a little worried about Fonseca's wrists. I think we're hearing that there's a little bit, he's a little banged up, and 5-set matches make you a little worried about something like a wrist.
Yeah. And I mean, this season he came in and I was once overweight. He looked a little overweight, and I know he had some back issues. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely been playing better. How about another one of the youngest sensations to burst onto the scene here on the men's side, Rafa Hodar, who literally has come out of nowhere here in the last couple of months. I'm just trying to look at his draw. He's got an American, it looks like Kovacevic, who actually played well in Hamburg this week. and then he'd get either James Duckworth or Gabriel Diallo. Those should be pretty easy. So he is looking at a potential third-round matchup against Taylor Fritz. He would probably be a pretty decent-sized favorite in that match as well, Danny, if Fritz can get there. So Rafa Hodar, do we get a Rafa?
I think at least
a couple of years later, another Rafa that makes a big surprise run?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I mean by paying attention on the men's draw to those individual matchups, and just keep some of these names in mind, because they may come in because they're so young as an underdog, and you might get to sneak in some value there. Hodar, I could make the fourth round. I believe he's going to make the fourth round. If I was penciling in my bracket right now, I would put him there. He's been on a tear. I believe he's one of the top 6 favorites to win this entire tournament. Guys, he was playing college tennis a year ago. He was ranked like outside the top 800, and now he's inside the top 30 or 40. That's bananas.
That's crazy. Danny, do you for tennis, do you like it better when it's something with the men's draw where you have such a clear favorite like Sinner, and it's just you get the alerts of oh, he's trailing, 2-1 going into the fourth set, and we're all just seeing if somebody can upset him? Or do you like it better when it's like the women's draw, as you and Pat were talking, you can make a case for all these different people? What is your preference personally?
Gosh, it's tough. It's hard for me not to be compelled by this Jannik Sinner story. I mean, he's won so many matches in a row. He's won 6 straight Masters 1000 titles. He's on the cusp of potentially winning the career Grand Slam at 24. He would be only the second person ever to win the career Grand Slam and all 9 Masters 1000s. The other person to do it was Novak Djokovic, and he was 31 when he did it. So it's hard for me not to pay attention to this. Also, because he chose to, tennis is such a strategy sport, as you guys probably know. When do you play? When do you sit out tournaments? And Jannik Sinner's played everything, played all the big tournaments coming into this. Is fatigue going to be a factor? We started to see him get a little tired in Rome. It is interesting. So I'm actually going to say, even though he's the heavy favorite, I am curious to see if something happens that we are just not expecting. So probably that, because if I'm putting my money on it, the women's draw is making me a little nervous, because truly anything can happen there. And that makes me a little bit more worried about stacking my chips there, if that makes any sense.
Well, Danny, here's the other thing to consider. You're in Los Angeles, where it's normally hot. I'm looking at the weather. You're looking at 90 degrees every day for the first week in Paris. And we know Jannik Sinner does not normally do well when it gets very hot out. We'll see if Maresmo gives him the night match every night just so that they can have Sinner move on. I'm sure that's probably going to be a topic of conversation when he's playing, because if he's playing in the heat of the day, that's where you maybe could get him. You get a grinder, somebody that can really exchange with him for a couple of hours, that could grind him down. But one last question for you here, Dani Klupenger, Tennis Channel, studio host, broadcaster, awesome. See her on your TV basically 75% of the year if you're watching tennis. You do a lot of interviews. You talk to a lot of players, both on the men's and women's side. If there's any player that sticks out right away, fun to talk with, really cool, down to earth, who are the most fun players on the tour, both on the men's and women's side? Who have you interviewed with that you really came away with wow, that person's awesome?
I'm a really big Ben Shelton fan. I hope that he reaches the pinnacle of the sport. I hope he wins a Grand Slam, because I do think he's going to be one of those people that is going to be on every billboard, everything. He's charismatic. He's got a great family. He does things right. He's a nice person. He's somebody that you just kind of want to rally around. And he's dating Trinity Rodman. There's so many things about this guy that's interesting. So he's a big favorite of mine. I'm pretty biased towards Jannik Sinner. I think he's a very nice guy, so it's hard for me to cheer against him, even though nobody ever wants to see the favorite win, right? We all love an upset. That's why we're in sports. We love to watch it, but we also love to watch greatness as it starts to unfold in front of us. Coco Gauff, I'm a massive, massive fan of her. Arina Sabalenka, a huge delight. She is just every ounce of her own self, and she is totally okay with calling her coaches out on court and making fun of herself, and a lot of self-deprecation. And that's likable. That's really likable. So the people I'm naming are towards the top of the sport. So it's actually fun, because as they continue to win and continue to be, throughout most of the week and a half of the first of these 2-week tournaments, that's exciting stuff. You're going to want to cheer for those people.
Yeah, absolutely. Dani, I hope to see you at the US Open. I got my my hat on right now. So
you're locked in, by the way. Your analysis is great. You're totally right about the heat. I actually talked to Madison Keys today. She said that her air conditioner is not working. It's nearly 80 degrees in the hotel rooms. They can't seem to, Europe doesn't believe in air conditioning. So I don't know how well some of these players are going to be resting, especially my other friend that's on the doubles court. She said that it's 80 degrees in her hotel room as well. They tried to get somebody in there to fix the AC. So sleep is a factor. Heat is a factor. You're right.
yeah, well, we can't wait to see you on the TV shortly in the near future once we get past Wimbledon, and then we've got a bunch of Masters 1000 tournaments again. But enjoy the French Open. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. It was so much fun. Thanks for all your insight and your analysis, and we can't wait to catch up with you soon.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks, Dani.
There you go, Dani Klupenger, studio host and broadcaster for Tennis Channel. You can follow her on Twitter and Instagram at Dani Klup.